Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Coaching Call podcast. On this podcast, we'll cover various types of coaching by trainers in sports, martial arts, fitness, and business. We'll discuss each coach's methods to getting the most out of their respective athletes or clients and how they attempt to change the platform in which they coach. Join us on a fun adventure as we discuss unique coaching styles. Coaching is a universal part of how we get others to get something done. Join your host, Raphael, and his guests on this unique journey in coaching.
Hi, I'm Sifu Raphael, and this is the Coaching Call podcast. If you enjoy this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. This episode was made possible by listeners like you. Otis, good morning. Thank you for joining me this morning. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. Doing great. And hey, it's always great to hang out with you and share what we know with each other and all the listeners too.
Yeah, well, here's the cool thing. You and I have become friends, but not everybody knows your stories. And I want to go deeper into who Otis is. So therefore, I mean, you've been a Green Beret, in charge of Green Berets, helping people in so many ways. We want to get to that point, but I want to go into little Otis, right? Where'd you grow up? Who influenced you when you were so young, even before the age of 10? And then we'll start scaling it up.
Yeah.
So we get to today.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Fort Worth, and I had the amazing family in an awesome little neighborhood. My earliest memories of Fort Worth were living in a fourplex, and and our neighbor, I think it was like two doors down, they had two boys, one like a year younger and one 3 years younger. And the three of us became best of friends and troublemakers and you name it, for our entire lives. That we didn't stay in that area. We actually stayed in the neighborhood, but moved a couple of streets over out of the fourplex into the house. And it was just, I remember we rode bikes everywhere. It was, we rode our bike. I remember that first time I got to ride my bike to the grocery store, and how, that was so awesome to get to go to the grocery store and buy something for mom. What an awesome responsibility and freedom. And probably, right around that 8, 9, maybe even 10, we discovered a creek. A drainage is really, my mom was like, that's not a creek. My mom, who grew up in, the swamps of Louisiana, fussing at this Texas drainage. But we discovered that, and we started hanging out in there, and we started fishing for crawdads. We would walk down this creek. It's about a mile away. So we'd walk down this creek, and I'd convince mom to let us have a hot dog. And hot dog, a piece of cotton twine. So you cut the hot dog into about a ½ inch, 1 inch sort of chunk. You tie the line around it, and you throw it in the creek, which was pretty much stagnant. And you wait till a crawdad came up and started putting his claws on it because he wants to eat it, right? And when he grabs it, you slowly start to pull it away, and he gets pissed off. So he's not just kind of nibbling at it. He's pissed off at it now. He's like, don't you take that. And he latches onto it. And when he latches onto it, we pull him out of the water and drop him in the bucket. And, well, I always, my mom, again, growing up in Louisiana on the swamps, eating crawfish. She didn't eat crawdads. She ate crawfish, right? So I bring a bucket home, and I'm super proud of myself of catching, 4 or 5 crawfish. They're that size, right? They're okay size, eating size. She's like, we are not eating those, because those are crawdads, and they're living in that nasty water that you're getting it from over there in the sewers. So, but it didn't stop us from catching them. I can tell you that. We would still go out there almost all summer long. It was another great memory I had. Oh, the lot next to us was empty. And we built we had a bike trail around it. So, and when I bike trail, I'm talking about small lot. We're
Right,
not
right,
talking
right.
about acres. We're talking about, not even a quarter acre is probably an eighth or something like that, whatever it was. But we had a loop around it for our bikes that had a hill in one point that you
Mm,
jump off that.
right, right.
Uh, Used to go out there with our army men. Remember the little plastic green army
Oh
men?
yeah. Oh yeah, I
Oh
had
yeah,
those.
we'd set those up. Uh, in Texas, you have these big red ants. They're not the fire ants. Fire ants are small and they're mean as all get out.
Well, I've been attacked by them.
Yeah, well, these are you want to call them fire ants because they're red and they're
Mm,
big. And we had a big nest of those out there. And I did the typical boy thing, magnifying glass,
you're right.
uh, get like what was it? I'd steal like a spray bottle of mom's hairspray and a lighter, and do
Mm.
all those sort of things that it's a
You're not
wonder I
supposed to
got
do.
what you're not supposed to do. It's a wonder I still have all my fingers and toes and eyes
Yes.
after doing all those sort of things. Yeah, that was I mean, we literally did everything outside, played
Mm.
football in the yard, baseball, and then I think then when we started doing basketball a little bit too, but none of us were that big into basketball. It was football and baseball. We'd play out in the front yard all the time.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You're reminding me of my childhood almost, but it's like what trouble can we get into and get away with it, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
And
what?
you learn that mom's got eyes everywhere.
Oh
You
yeah.
think you think you're getting away with something, and next thing you know, you get home and mom's gotten a phone call from some other mom
Hmm.
that's seen what I've done. So
Yeah. I remember in the old days, it was almost like all the moms would call out at the same time, dinner, and everybody would be, they were all dinner, 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 dinner. Everybody would be running home
yep.
because, hey, some food was going to be available. Um, so, what adult would you say, besides your mom, had an influence on you around that age, 10, 12?
hmm My dad definitely. Dad helped. Dad got me playing soccer, which when we were growing up, soccer was nobody played soccer.
Mm,
So dad got me playing soccer. He was one of the coaches. I played from like second grade through ninth grade. Uh, he was also my scoutmaster.
mm,
Uh, I started off Cub Scouts. Uh, and I think my mom was more involved in the Cub Scouts, we below sort of thing. And then when I became a Boy Scout, whatever age that is, like 12, I think, Dad was Scoutmaster. Dad's an Eagle Scout. And between my dad and the other two Scoutmasters, so my best friend that I mentioned, we used to live in the fourplex together. His dad was also a Scoutmaster, Ronnie, and Dad and Ronnie were best of friends. And Ronnie I've always referred to him as my other dad, my second dad.
mm,
Uh, which reminds me, a funny Ronnie story is when they moved out to the country, and we go out there and get in some real creeks and get in some real trouble out in the woods. Ronnie would step out on the back porch, and there was no calling for dinner. It was a whistle. And that whistle, that man could whistle, and you could hear that like 2 miles away.
mm.
And our job was to yell loud enough to acknowledge it, or else we got in trouble. Even though, no matter how far away we were, as long as we could hear the whistle, we were okay,
Right.
because then we knew it was time to come home.
Yeah.
But yeah, Boy Scouts had a huge influence on me. Uh, Going through, the Cub Scouts, Webelos, I don't remember a whole lot about that. But when I got into Boy Scouts and we were going out camping and backpacking and, living, out for the weekend, doing like survival trips. You know, I'll tell you my favorite Boy Scout event was, and this is one of those things, they won't let you do this anymore.
Mm.
It was called the
Oh boy.
Chicken Survival Weekend. And what they would do is they'd pair us up, and Friday night They would drop us off. We got a peach can full of anything we wanted, tools, implements, no food, just peach can. We call it a peach can, but think regular soup can size. And then we got a live chicken between the two of us, and you got to bring your sleeping bag.
Mm.
No backpack, none of that stuff. I mean, literally a peach can, a live chicken, and two 12-year-old boys.
Oh my gosh.
Drop us off Friday night with a map and a compass and tell us Sunday morning here, there's pancakes.
Oh my gosh.
And we had to get from point A Friday night to point B Sunday morning on our own. And if we chose to, eat that chicken, which we did. But that was amazing. I did that 2 years because it was an annual thing that we did in the spring. And I think that of all the things that set me up to become a Green Beret, that little weekend thing was such a moment in my life that I still think back to. I've got pictures of the terrain and the trees and building the fire and cooking the chicken after we killed it, of course, and all those sort of things going on. And in that survival mode, just the two of us out there in the woods on our own. And man, what a moment, what a life-changing, memory and event to have done at, 12, 13 years old.
That's pretty incredible at 12. You reminded me, I dated a girl who was in the Navy, and I'm sorry, Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to confuse them. And for training, in order for her to pass a certain requirement, her and about 6 other people were dropped off. I don't know, mixed between males and females, dropped off at a mountain. No food. They had a week to survive.
Yep.
Just what they were able to have on their bodies, backpacks or whatever. No food, a week. And what she told me is that there was hyperthermia, it was all kinds of crazy things. And it was, they had to look for anything they can eat. And they finally found a rabbit. And because she was one of the females, they said, okay, one of the females has to eat the eye raw. And she's like, you know what? I don't care. If I eat the eye, I know I can get more. She did it. And I was like, wow, how was it? She goes, it was kind of like salty. I was like, okay, interesting. But it was that which is what sets certain people apart, because if you can accomplish something like that, I mean, go out with a chicken and we'll see you on Sunday for pancakes.
I know.
My gosh. At 12 years old, I mean, you're right. It in a way, I don't think any kids nowadays would be able to survive because they don't have their Xbox or their Wi-Fi or their phones. It was a different time.
Yeah.
And so how many kids would survive something like that? And not only not die in the process, but even know how to eat that chicken, right?
Yeah. And how to get from point A to point B too. Because, it was
No
old
GPS.
school map and compass, right? And figuring out how to navigate. I mean, now of course, there was a lot of training and build up, other camping trips where we'd work on skills, land navigation, and building shelters and fires and cooking and all those sort of things. So it wasn't just, grab us off the street and drop us off, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot to that. And yeah, it was definitely a formidable event in my life, because I think it just set me, being a Boy Scout all those years really instilled me. I'm looking out in the yard right now, instilled me to how much I enjoy being out in the woods and being outside like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So Boy Scouts, out in the wilderness, you and another kid, 12 years old, you figured out how to do it, and you had this energy about it. Like you could probably not wait till do it again.
Yeah.
But let me ask you, how was the camaraderie after that event with you and that other boy?
Oh, we were super close. Uh, we were already good friends.
Mm,
But Pete Lang was his name. Uh, and just when you spend that kind of time one on one, depending on each other, you know, there's a lot of pushing back,
mm,
pushing and getting. I don't remember specifics, but I can remember arguing about various things and complaining. No, it was your fault or that or those sort of things, or no, we should have gone this way, or oh, I don't want to go that way.
mm,
Those sort of typical things. Uh, but figuring out how to deal with that and how to get along was again a great life lesson to be put in that situation. One of the things that I've said for years, and I can't remember where I originally heard it, or hell, I might have made it up, but misery loves company,
it
right?
does.
And there's a bond. You talk about in war and foxholes and how that bond happens, or even just going through a tough workout together.
Mhm.
It brings you closer to somebody. So if you're there with that person going through the same struggles, then your relationship grows tighter. It's really an interesting human tribe desire, human survival instinct. I think that
Mm,
it pulls you. One of two things happen. One, you either come super close to that person, or you boot them out of your relationship completely because now you've seen who they truly are, to use that terminology. Uh, but generally speaking, when I'm thinking of misery loves company, all those filters have already happened. So the
mhm,
probability that I'm going to boot that person away is pretty slim. So it's much more likely that we're going to become closer and closer together and have a tighter bond in life going forward because we've walked a similar path of
mm,
struggle together. And that right there, man, that really puts you together with somebody. That's a powerful thing to when you think about uh, relationships and how you get along with somebody and what that's like, and the more that you struggle, whether it's even in a business situation. I mean, you could even put it in a business situation. You and your business partner, and you're going through this really crappy time with the business. You haven't even gotten to the crappy time yet because you're still struggling to get it up and running. And you and your business partner are sitting there, night after night, pounding your head on the table together. And think of the bond that you and that
mm,
business partner develop in that situation, because that's the same thing. It's a different kind of misery, a different kind of struggle, but it's still that struggle, it's still that misery. And I think that brings people closer together when you share that common struggle
mhm,
of getting over obstacles, completing tasks, moving forward. When things are easy all the time, and then we're just kind of happy-go-lucky skipping down the road, and we tend to take those relationships for granted.
mhm,
But when you're struggling and you're really having that hard time, and that partner, friend, mentor, whoever, right, is sitting there with you, going through the struggle with you, and sitting there shoulder to shoulder, that that's the relationship that we all should strive to have. Because I don't think you get the same thing if we're all happy-go-lucky. I mean, you and I, Raphael, we've become good friends doing this, and I know that when we get together and we sit down and break bread together in person and start to do that, and maybe you will go into your dojo and we'll do a little bit of that.
mm.
That'll just, I mean, that'll seal it,
Yeah, yeah.
and it'll raise the relationship to the next level. And I think that is a human need,
Mhm.
to have that kind of relationship. And if you bear with me for just a second, because this just popped into my mind too, that is one of the things that I think pulls veterans together.
It does.
because, we've all gone through some similar things. And I mentioned earlier in the green room about my buddy hanging out, staying with us tonight and tomorrow night. Well, he's a veteran, and the reason we have such a great relationship, we didn't serve together, but we have that common bond of being a veteran, going through that life. And then not only that, now we're business relationship business. I don't think we have any true partnerships yet, but we have that business relationship too. So we have this common values, we have this common history and common values that have brought us together. And he and I hang out, smoke a cigar, have a whiskey, and it's those sort of things, man. People got to have relationships.
Yeah. I mean, one of the commonalities that veterans definitely have is, even if they didn't go to war, right? Even if they didn't do a full mission, they at least went through boot camp, and they understand what that was like, right? Because it's probably not the easiest thing, or in retrospect, maybe it was the easiest thing compared to everything else, right?
Yeah.
That you guys went through. One of the things that definitely you talked about, when people, you see their true colors, who they truly are in a time of need, right? If somebody, you're right, if somebody's just, just walking down the merry path, you will never know who they really are. They will not. In the moment of desperation, in the moment of truth, how will they act? And it's that action right there that will let you know if they're the right person to be in that situation with. So tell me, what inspired you to get into the military, or whom inspired you?
I think what it is, and I told part of this story in my TEDx talk a couple of years ago, where I grew up in Fort Worth, Carswell Air Force Base. I think it's now named something different, but Carswell Air Force Base was on the west side of town. And I remember as a kid, every day, multiple times a day, seeing B-52s flying over. And dad built fighter planes. That's what dad did. So he worked at his plant. The plant that he worked at was down at that Air Force Base. But I would see these B-52s flying over, and I remember asking Dad what they're doing, where they're going, and he's like, they're flying to bomb the Soviet Union until they get a phone call to come back, not to go. And I think that understanding, that planted a seed in my mind of wanting to serve our great nation, wanting to be part of it. And originally, because I lived near that unbelievable base with these unbelievable airplanes, I wanted to be a pilot. And my dad, being the wise man that he is, said, "You can't." I'm like, "Why not?" He said, "Well, because you wear glasses, and pilots can't wear glasses." And I was like, "Man, shoot," And I said, "Fine, then I'll join the Army." And that was what I did. Then dad did something else. He influenced me to not just join the Army, but he influenced me to go to Army ROTC and become an officer to join the Army, which was great advice for me. And it really, in the longevity of my career and things like that, helped out. But that's where it came from. I mean, back to that vacant lot next to our house, and standing out there as a kid and just watching those B-52s fly over. I mean, they're massive planes, and there'd be like a flight of 4 of them, heading off to end the world, quite literally, nuclear holocaust sort of thing. Didn't quite grasp it as a kid in that sense, but just seeing those massive planes and knowing that they were on mission to protect us. And I think that was the seed in my life that got me got me saying, that's what I want to do. I want to serve.
Well, thank you for your service. One of the things that is very intriguing because, and your dad did give you great advice to join the ROTC because you could have just enlisted and you would have been regular, right? But you came at a higher level. So what propelled you to not just go in at that level, but to say, I want the elite?
Mm.
Because I believe the Green Berets are the elite. What was that calling for you?
I've been asked that before, and I've racked my brain on it.
Mm,
What was it that flipped that switch to say I want to do more? I want to challenge myself more, and I really don't have a recollection of where what was the genesis of
mhm,
that thought. But that when I said I wanted to go in the Army, and maybe it was a couple of my upperclassmen at Texas A&M as a cadet. Maybe it was a couple of them that influenced me. I had a couple of upperclassmen that were juniors when I was a freshman, and they were great mentors to me.
mm.
Uh, they were the ones that when we're getting punished, group punishment, and all that sort of stuff by the sophomores, because that's the job of a sophomore, is to punish the freshmen.
Right.
And they'd be like the uncle,
Mm,
you're getting in trouble, you're in trouble with mom and dad, and they were like the uncle and say, come here, Otis, come in here, let's sit down and talk about this. And they'd close the door and hand me a Foster's beer, because for some reason that was what they drank. So get a Foster's oil can when I went into their
I
room.
remember those.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. I'm a big, wide-eyed 18-year-old, loving my beer, and talk about it. And I think they influenced me because they were part of uh, what is the club still exists. It's called Rudder's Rangers, named after James Earl Rudder, who was battalion commander for the Ranger Battalion. I can't remember which number now, but his battalion was one of the ones that stormed Pointe du Hoc on D-Day.
Mm,
And James Earl Rudder later became president of Texas A&M, and really helped bring Texas A&M from kind of the mediocre school and set it onto the path to this great university now. I think the joke even was at the time, and I may be mixing stories, but Texas A&M was referred to as the cancer on the Brazos,
oh
because it
gosh.
was just taking money out of the state and not giving back anything.
Mm.
Probably people in Austin were saying that. Uh, but yeah, I think those two guys introduced me to the higher level, because all I knew really was I just wanted to be in the Army. I didn't know anything about it.
Mm,
I started, and they introduced me to this higher level thing of being elite. And so I joined our cadet ranger company, Rudderist Rangers, and I was back out in the woods again doing those sort of things, except now we were carrying rifles
mm.
with blanks and rucksacks, and chasing after bad guys as training events. That was 4 years as a college student.
Mm.
You know where I spent my spring breaks? Out in the woods doing
Nice.
patrols. I didn't go to the beach. I was not down at the beach partying. I
Mm.
was out in the woods doing patrols, preparing myself to be a soldier once I got commissioned. So I think it was probably those two guys that really introduced me to that. They're also the ones that introduced me to the National Guard, and that was when I enlisted in the National Guard so that I could. My reason I wanted to do that is so I wanted to understand what life was like, or is like, as a soldier before I became an officer.
Mm.
Or I really should say as an enlisted soldier, because an officer is still a soldier. But I wanted to know what that life was like. What was it like to go to basic training? What's it like to be the lowest man on the totem pole and got to do all this stuff and the crappy jobs and the maintenance and have zero responsibility too. So yeah, that was another experience that they had influenced me into, and plus I got a little beer money out of that job too. I mean, it wasn't a lot. It was like $100 a month or something like that.
Yeah.
For a weekend, barely. I think. Well, it paid for my gas. It paid for my gas to go there and maybe a couple of beers. Back then, the prices were a lot different. So
Yeah, it won't pay for gas today.
Yeah, no
Or
kidding.
beer.
Yeah. So yeah, that was probably a big part of it, and then just growing and learning more, doing all those things as a cadet.
At what point did when you went into the Army, did you select, I want to go into the Green Berets, or were you selected for it?
You raise your hand. So the Army gives you, they toy with you in a lot of ways. So when I first received my commission, the Army assigned me a branch, we call it. And of course, I got to have a list of things I wanted. That's why they call it a wish list. And I had my top 3 things, 1, 2, 3. And I was like, no problem. I'm getting number 1, infantry, right? That's all I ever wanted to be, was an infantry officer. But the Army didn't need me to be an infantry officer. The Army needed me to be an engineer, and said, boom. So that was my first, like, oh my God, what in the world? I literally almost cried when I found that out. I was so down and out, but I made the best of it. And because my vision for my life, my vision for my career was infantry, Ranger Regiment, still special ops, right? But not Green Beret. Green Beret, I didn't know hardly anything about. When I became an engineer, I got exposed to a lot of different things in Alaska, which was a whole nother experience. But while there, I got exposed to what Green Berets are. And that's when I raised my hand to volunteer to become a Green Beret, to go through the selection and assessment and all the training that goes along with that. That was when I decided that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah. So did you have to go through an extra camp for that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So you go through a 3-week assessment and selection, which is a series of very long days with a lot of physical effort, and it was okay amount of food. It wasn't like they were starving you, but very little sleep and a lot of quizzes, mental games to keep you awake, number 1, and number 2, to just get your mind going, oh my God. Like, here's a blank piece of paper. Draw the United States with all 50 states and name the capitals. You have 1 hour. You're sitting in this classroom. It's like 9 o'clock at night, and you've been doing the physical stuff all day, and now I'm like, 50. Holy crap! Yeah, there's 50. Yeah, I mean, try that now with a good night's sleep, and it was like, those were the sort of things they would do to test your mental acuity. I mean, did guys get thrown out because they couldn't draw the United States and only got 1 capital? Or no, but it was part of the mental game to get your mind going. So not only were you just doing the physical effort and going through all these physical effort, which the problem sets were always crazy too. I'll share with you a couple of those.
Sure.
But at night, when your body, it's dark and you're usually in this rest mode, and here you are 9 o'clock at night in a classroom with the other 100 guys that are going through this selection. And by the way, there was no rank structure. Nobody wore ranks or anything like that. So everybody's just a candidate to mess with your mind. And then you would get, 4 hours of sleep, if that, and during the day, they started you off at doing individual things. And the individual things was basically, how quickly can you get from point A to point B? And in various states, it started off easy, following roads. and then it's going cross country, and you're moving all these distances and doing land navigation. And then the next week we go to a team week. Missing a week in there somewhere, but you go to a team week, and you're put together with 10 other guys, 9, 10 of you in this team, and they pick a guy randomly to be in a leadership role, and they'll read this fictitious mission and tell you do the best you can. And these missions go from moving this down to pilot from here to there. And the down pilot is a duffel bag full of sand that weighs, like 250 pounds. And the tools you have are, big iron pipes like this, because the part of the instruction is you can't leave anything behind. You don't have to use it, but you can't leave it behind. And maybe like a big truck tire, and then a small Jeep tire. And these are all tools, if you use them right, can help you move to that point B easier. But you got to figure it out, and you got to solve the problem. You got to lead the team. You got to work as a team. You got to be the team leader just for that time period, by the way. So it is a measure of how good of a follower you are and how good of a leader you are throughout that whole time. So there's a lot of physical and mental things, and they're measuring how you fit in as a team member and how you lead when you're in charge.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Incredible. Probably fun also, but nerve-wracking, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, because you're there for a reason, right? You're there because you want to win the Green Beret. You want to be awarded it. And the pressure's on, because that not everybody, there are people that go through the entire training and get through everything
and don't get picked
and don't get selected. Yeah. And you never know until the very end.
So besides you, and how many others were picked?
I think for mine, that selection was probably in the 50% of us.
Okay.
The wonderful song of the Ballad of the Green Berets. Man, I love it. By Barry Sadler. It was actually a #1 hit in the 60s when it came out. Barry Sadler, Staff Sergeant, active duty Green Beret, wrote the song in Vietnam.
Wow.
But in the song, he says, but only 3 win the Green Beret. 100 men will test today, but only 3 win the Green Beret. And when you think about from start to finish, from very beginning, going through the paperwork to get to the selection, because there's a filter there. You go through selection, and there's another filter. And then you go through the qualification course, and there's 6-7 months of that training. There's another filter that people don't get through. It is about 3% from, and that's where that line in the song is so accurate. Of 100 men we test today, but only 3 win the Green Beret. It's that tough of go through.
What was your first? I mean, you made it. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't easy. It was probably intense for sure. What was your first mission as a Green Beret? And you don't have to tell us all the details, because I know there's certain things you can't say. But just give us a quick story as to what it was and what were your thoughts at that time, if you can.
My first mission was actually a training mission, just doing training operations. We were a maritime operations team, and we were doing training off the coast of Maine in May with our 2-man Klepper kayaks and rubber Zodiacs. And that was amazing, because I had never done, I'd been to the ocean once or twice in Texas, Gulf of Mexico and the coast of Maine are two. I mean, that's like 2 different worlds, and between tides and water temperatures and all that sort of stuff. And that was amazing, and a lot of hard work and a lot of great experience. My first deployment operational mission was to Haiti with the my good friends, my brothers in arms, my Polish special operators called GROM, GROM. And I was just in Warsaw visiting with some of those guys, catching up 35 years ago. Unbelievable. Yeah, we all looked different, but it was like we were back in 80. But yeah, that was an unbelievable honor of a mission, because my team was selected to support the Polish GROM in the very first mission that they had ever done, and a public recognition of the unit, which was secret until that moment. Public recognition and their first deployment out of the country. And my team was in charge of taking care of them, integrating them into our operations with the U.S. and Haiti. And yeah, like I said, back to that whole misery loves company thing. A couple of those guys, like I said, man, when I was in Warsaw a few weeks ago, it was like we hadn't missed a step, man. My brother Peter and I just sitting there, and my wife, Miss Suzanne, even making comments. It's like you guys, y'all haven't missed a beat. Y'all haven't talked this much in 30 some odd years, and it's like you're just back in that same conversation. Yeah.
That's incredible. So when you consider all the training, all the missions you were on, at what point were you recognized as one of the real leaders, because you led other Green Berets? At what point were you recognized, and what was that like? And if you can recall, did you feel like you deserved it?
That's an easy one. No. Yeah, that's an easy one. I mean, one of the things that the Army does, and truthfully the military does, is they rotate you in positions to get you experience, to make you more well-rounded. And I think the success comes from what you do in any of those positions that you're put into. The old adage of when in charge, be in charge. When you have the opportunity to lead, then lead. And that's what I did. I think one of the missions that I'm most proud of, because we did so much, was when I deployed my company of Green Berets. So, my first job as a Green Beret is I'm in charge of, 11 other guys. My next job, other than staff, at my next command job, now I'm in charge of 6 of those teams and a smaller unit. And so really 7 of those teams. So I took that organization, received the mission, and we deployed to Kosovo. And while there, because of what was going on and what we were doing, and thankfully my boss, General Les Fuller, who I'm still in contact with, we chat occasionally. Nice. General Les Fuller, he protected me. He said, McGregor's doing the job, give it to him. Take care of him. He needs it, give it to him. And while I was there, so not only did I have my 6 teams, I got another team from another battalion. So now I have 7 Green Beret teams. And then the Ranger Regiment sent over a team. So now I've got 8 teams.
Wow.
And then the SEALs sent over a platoon, which is the equivalent of, it's like 2 Green Beret teams. That's the number of people. Sent those over to me. And so now and they split into 2. So now I've got 10 operational units that I'm in charge of. And nowadays, I always tell folks nowadays that's like at least a colonel, 2 grades above where I was at the time. And I had leaders who trusted me. So not only did I have General Fuller, who was up at the Special Operations headquarters in Stuttgart, I had what we call the ground force commander, Colonel Close. Colonel Close was the the first infantry division brigade commander, and I still got a plaque up here on the wall from him.
Nice.
Who was my boss there, and he trusted me 100% to do my job. He said, tell me what you're doing, tell me what you need, and just keep me updated. And as long as you do that, I believe you and I trust you to do your job. And that right there, that just sets the tone. When you have leaders that are willing to protect you, stand up for you, and put you on a path to say, you're in charge, you take charge. Here's your left and right limits. Here's your thresholds. In between those, you go do you do it the way you see fit. And those guys, Fuller and Close, I mean, Close had another boss ahead of him, the task force commander, but Colonel Close at the time, Colonel Close, he was my filter. He protected me. So anytime the general would get, maybe question something that we were doing in operation or something like that, Colonel Close would go in and close the door with the general and protect me from having to go take me, which would have taken me away from my operations and running my organization, to go explain to him about, justify things. No, he went in there and said, nope, McGregor, those guys, those Green Berets down there are doing the right thing, and they're doing exactly what we need to accomplish the mission, boss. Let them do it. And that kind of leadership, man,
That's big.
Yeah. It's what you dream of. It's like ideal, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Well, you said one word that really puts it into perspective for me, and I'm sure everybody else listening: trust. That's a huge word. And, I've done episodes where we talk just about trust, and it's not easy to get, but it's very easy to regain. No, not at all. Not easy. Super hard. I mean, so it's hard to get, and it's not easy to regain. It's like triple hard to regain it, because once you lose the trust on a person, it's so hard to regain. So once somebody has that trust in you, I think we need to do everything in our power to continue having that trust that they've put on us, because that speaks volumes. And the only reason that he said we're going to trust these guys is because of your continued actions to keep that trust alive. So I think that's a huge and powerful word that we don't give it the importance it needs,
Yeah. Can I share with you a way that I've defined trust in leadership? It's the trust triad. And the trust triad this is how you understand how important trust is as a leader, and even as a team member. So the trust triangle, 3 legs. Leg number 1, you have to trust yourself. As the leader, you have to believe that every decision you make is the best decision that you can make in the moment that you make it, with the information that you have at that time. And step forward and be decisive with being in that decision. Trust yourself. That's leg number 1. Leg number 2 is you have to trust your team. Trust your team to do the job that you're paying them to do, that you hired them to do, that they are there to do. Just like my boss, General Fuller and Colonel Close, did for me when I was a young major, and allowed me to accelerate and do my job. You have to trust those people. Otherwise, why are you paying them? Why are they there? If you don't trust them to do their job, then why the heck are they there? That's leg 2. And when those 2 are in place, the third leg of the triangle, and this is the key one, comes to play, and your team trusts you as the leader. They believe that every decision you make has the best interests of the organization. Nothing about personal gain for you, a better promotion or a bonus or a higher public offer or any of that sort of stuff. They believe that every decision that you make is for the betterment of the organization. So the trust triad, to review it: trust yourself, trust your team, and your team trusts you. That's the trust triad, and that is the secret to being a great leader, is having an understanding of the trust triad.
Yeah, I love it. And having the three legs to stand on with trust. Yes, those are important, right?
Yeah.
Tripod, if you will.
Yeah.
So how long did you serve for?
I served 25 years.
I was going to say 26, but 25. Okay.
I'm
It
not
seems
that
like,
old. I'm only 25.
it seems like you've learned so many lessons, not only as a leader, but an observer of other leaders, right? Because you were close enough to the top, right? You were the top, but then there was obviously other people above you, and to see how they conducted themselves and the leadership roles they played, and the trust that they had in you, and the trust that you had in your man. And one of the things that you just talked about is you need to trust your team, because they're there for a reason. They were hired, they're getting paid to do their job. Let them do their job, right? A lot of people don't. They try to micromanage every little thing, even in small business or even large businesses.
Well, and here's the reminder of that too, Raphael. I'll share this with you. If you're micromanaging and doing their job for them, or over supervising them to do their job, then who's doing your job?
Mm, that's right.
Think about that.
Yeah. So 25 years, incredible career. You've affected so many people's lives. You served our country with valor, with dignity, with pride, but you're not done. So you went into the private sector, and I've put it across the screen already. Your website, or where people can find you, is 10xyourteam.net. So why did you decide? Well, a lot of people, 25 years, hey, they're going to retire, they're going to sit back, rocking chair, no rocking chair, whatever, but you're still cranking it out. You have an amazing facility where people can still come and do the outdoor things with you. And I know that one day I'm going to be there with you as well. So talk to me about why you decided to keep helping people become better leaders, and why is leadership one of your most important aspects of your business?
Well, my purpose is to create a legacy of leaders.
Love it.
And the reason I believe in that so strongly is I believe that when we have great leaders in our organizations, those organizations become better, become great organizations, and those great organizations influence their communities around them outside of those organizations. So we have better communities. And when we have these better communities around the world, guess what? We have a better world. That's why I do it, because I believe in that wholeheartedly, in that action and in that outcome. And I have this innate desire to share what I know with others, because for two reasons. One, I want to see others succeed. I want to see them. I want to see them have aha moments. I want to high five them, slap them on the back and say, "Dave, that's awesome, man. Great job." And I also know what good is all these experiences and knowledge from books and other things I've done in my life if I don't give it away to others. Because when I'm dead, ain't none of that coming around to anybody else. So give it, share it, because
Sure.
it's thrilling to me to help others succeed at what they want to succeed, and even take one step further back, because a lot of people don't know what success looks like to them. So even just helping them define what that is, and then helping them put together the plan to have that, and seeing that in them, that excites me. Can you tell? Can you
Oh,
tell that
yeah,
excites me?
exactly. It's very interesting when you talk about somebody's success, because everyone has different ideas about what success is, right? Somebody can be thinking, "Oh, I need to make $100 million," and someone could be saying success is to be able to put food on the table today. So we have to understand that not everybody's success goals are yours.
Mm.
Because somebody may say, I just want to have success where I can take my family on vacation, maybe for the first time ever. Or success may be, I, I, I I own a bicycle. One day my success is to own a car. So everybody has a different level of success. And and when we can think about helping them meet that goal, no matter what it is, that to me is success.
Yeah. Oh,
You know?
yeah. Well, it's given to others, right? I mean, if you're not giving, I think Tony Robbins said this, if you're not giving, you're not living. Living is giving.
Yeah.
And that's what, if you're driving for more money, you'll never be happy, you'll never be satisfied because there's always more money to have. But if your drive is to help others in some form or fashion, whatever it is, man, you can be satisfied and fulfilled and be happy every single day because there's always an opportunity to help somebody else, whether it's putting a basket away at the Walmart parking lot or calling somebody up you haven't talked to or sharing something out there into the ether world. And maybe, just maybe, somebody sees it and it makes a difference in their life because it ain't going to make a difference in anybody's life if it's staying up here.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not getting it out here and sharing it to somebody else, however you do it, whether you're doing it like me, putting videos and teaching about leadership out on the social medias, or you're just working with somebody one on one, or you got a friend or a young man or young lady that you're mentoring, that
Yeah.
that is
It's
giving.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very apparent you're a giver without a doubt, right? And I think that's why you and I resonate with one another so much because we're both come from that. I don't want to hold back my knowledge if somebody can benefit from it, right? Even if it's only one person, that's what matters, right?
Yeah.
If I affect more than one, man, my job is overwhelming. And when we consider what you've done, you also have a podcast, and I know I'm going to be on it soon because you're not doing it by yourself. You have this special, incredible young man who is part of that entrepreneurial spirit, if you will. Tell us a minute, if you can, about your show and even why you decided to do this.
Yeah. So it's called 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. And Cam, short for Camden, is our youngest son.
Mm.
And he is an entrepreneur at heart. I don't know what I sprinkled in his life, that independence and drive to create and share. We've been doing the show. I think we're coming up on our 5th year
Nice.
in May, and started it on a whim. I mean, honestly, he was at a startup. I was, in the early stages of Tribe and Purpose, and I called him up one day and I said, "Hey, why don't we start a podcast?" He's like, "Yes, sir." And that was literally how it started, and we've been going ever since. 300 plus episodes, having great guests like yourself on very soon. There's your teaser, folks. And what we focus on is leadership, and how do you lead? Where did you get the desire to lead? How do you deal with problems in your business, in your life? Because that's what leadership is, and leadership is not what you do, but it's the legacy you create behind you that you leave.
Yeah, it's something, one of the things, and I think that you and I both will have our names mentioned hundreds of years from today, is because of that actions that we're taking today, right? The legacy we leave behind. So thank you for mentioning that, because even if no one in the world knows my name, I want my family 5, 10 generations from now to say, that guy Raphael, great grandpa Raphael said whatever, right? and he affected the way we think, or he affected the way we do things because it makes sense. Or maybe he did terrible things that affected the way we now do things.
Mm.
Because he did the hard things, it's easier for us. Or we've learned the lessons because he was in the trenches, right? So everything we do has an effect, whether we like it or not. So, you're affecting people in so many different ways. And the fact that you even have a gentleman, and I'm going to share what you told me earlier. He said he was staying nearby, and you said, no, come stay with us. Why are you going to go spend, stuff? Come, we have a big enough place that you can come and hang out with us and spend some time with us. So you are very much a giver, you're very much a leader, and for not only your service, but you're still providing service. You're still helping humanity. And now you're doing it not just for the US Army, you're doing it for the world. So thank you for that.
Well, and thank you for saying that, man. I'm embarrassed. I don't know how much the red is showing through this morning, but I
Don't be embarrassed.
appreciate that, man. And it's always an honor to hang out with you and share with you and hear your life lessons and how you're growing and making an impact in the world and leaving that legacy. I love that too.
Yeah, my friend. Thank you so much again for being here and taking the time. And have yourself an exceptional rest of your day. Just hang on for a minute while we say goodbye to everybody. Everybody, once again, Otis McGregor, an incredible human being. Go to his Tribe and Purpose, 10x your. I'm going to put that back up here so people can follow it, right? So definitely 10xyourteam.net. So here's the thing. Anytime that you're looking for someone who will inspire your team, think of my friend. All right. Everybody, have yourself an incredible rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Everybody, have an amazing day.
Awesome. Thank you.
You got it.